It happened in broad daylight. Right in the middle of the cafeteria, where hundreds of students laughed, ate, and pretended not to see. But that day, everyone saw. For weeks, Hana had been invisible. That's how she liked it. Quiet, soft-spoken, always sitting in the back row, always taking the long way around the school to avoid attention. She had transferred to Jefferson High after an incident at her previous school, a bullying episode that ended with her in the hospital and a silence that followed her like a shadow. She wasn't ready to fight again. Not yet. Not after what it had cost her the first time. At Jefferson, Hana hoped to blend in. She wore her oversized uniform carefully. She kept her long hair over her face. She spoke only when called on and spent most of her lunch breaks in the library or near the vending machines. But you can't stay hidden forever. Especially when the wrong people notice you. There was a group at Jefferson High. Not the loudest, not the biggest. But the most dangerous. They didn't throw punches for fun. They didn't need to. Their game was humiliation. And they picked their victims carefully, the quiet ones, the ones who wouldn't fight back. To them, Hana was perfect. It started with laughter when she walked by. Whispers about her shoes. About her silence. Then one day, someone grabbed her notebook and tossed it across the hallway. She didn't say a word. She just picked it up and walked away. That was mistake number one in their eyes. No reaction meant weakness. And weakness meant permission. Lunchtime on a rainy Thursday, Hana sat alone at a far-off table with her lunch, reading a small novel in her lap. The cafeteria was loud, as always, but she had trained her mind to fade it out. She didn't see them approach. One of the boys leaned over her shoulder and said, "Hey, mute girl. That's not regulation skirt length, is it?" Hana didn't respond. She closed her book, lowered her head. Another voice. "Bet she's hiding something under that oversized blazer." Then, before she could move, two hands grabbed her arms while another yanked her jacket from behind, ripping the shoulder seam open in one clean pull. The cafeteria roared with gasps and laughter. Hana froze. Her uniform, already loose and worn, hung half open on her left side, exposing her inner blouse. One of the boys leaned in and whispered, "Oops." That's when she stood up. No screaming. No trembling. She turned slowly to face the boy who had touched her last. Her eyes, usually downcast, locked onto his with a glare so sharp, he instinctively stepped back. And then it happened. In one swift, lightning-fast move, Hana grabbed his collar, pulled him forward, and drove her knee into his ribs with terrifying precision. The sound was unmistakable. A crack. A gasp. And then silence. The boy crumpled to the ground, groaning in pain. Another tried to grab her from behind, but she pivoted, swept his legs out from under him, and stood tall while everyone watched. For the first time, Hana didn't care who saw. A teacher rushed over. Students screamed. Phones recorded. But Hana didn't flinch. She just stood, breathing steadily, like someone who had finally remembered who she really was. Security arrived. The two boys were taken to the nurse's office, one with broken ribs, the other with a twisted ankle. Hana was brought to the principal's office. But this time, she wasn't scared. She explained everything. What they did. What she had endured for weeks. How she had tried to stay invisible because of what happened before. The principal reviewed the footage. Several students came forward. Some apologized for laughing. Others admitted they'd seen the bullying but stayed silent. And then the video went viral. Not because of the violence, but because of the moment right before it. That moment when Hana stood, looked up, and became someone else. Someone powerful. Someone done with silence. She wasn't suspended. The school launched a bullying prevention program. And for the first time in Jefferson High's history, a student-led self-defense group was formed, led by Hana herself. Girls who had once stayed silent began speaking. Students who had once looked away began paying attention. And the cafeteria where everything happened. It became the meeting ground for weekly workshops on boundaries, courage, and personal strength. Hana didn't become loud. She didn't need to. But she was never invisible again. Moral of the story. Some people think silence means surrender. But silence is often survival. And when the time comes to rise, those who've been quiet the longest, hit the hardest. Strength isn't always loud. But when it moves, it changes everything.